And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house. Hope everyone is having a phenomenal day. A busy day of patience. Just put my two kids to bed, and now I am back here with y'all. Really excited to connect and give you some updates. So what's on your mind? Just looking at the stats here, the death rate is at the highest. I think we're right there at that curve. We'll go over and look at everything here and make sense of it all. Just reviewing some of the projections in the last week. If people have been following, projections started out at 2 to 3 million deaths. Now they come down to 1 to 200,000 deaths. One variable changed that. That variable was, wait for it, was social distancing. So social distancing and quarantining just a little bit into there changed that model. Now, we didn't even do it that great, right? There's lots of data of New York City people partying, St. Patrick's Day and all that stuff. And, so we're not even doing it all the way, but just that little change in the model had a big shift. There's a couple other things in the model, right? Number one is the mortality rate. Right now, the mortality rate's a little bit higher, 2-3%. You bring that mortality rate down to 1%, the curve flattens more. And the second thing is the R naught. We'll talk about that. The assumed R naught right now, that's like for every one person, another 1 to 2 to 3 people get infected. Let me just show you what that looks like real quick, because there's a couple of assumptions in regards to the R naught, and if this makes sense, that'll help y'all. Let me find my article here. Okay, so here's COVID-19, 2 to 3.11. The assumption that they're working on right now is 2.5, and it could actually even be better than that. Here's a Business Insider article where they're looking at 2 to 2.5 and this is a more recent article. So for every one person, 2.5 people will get infected. One person has it, 2.5 get infected. That's kind of the general model and how that works. Now, if you just change the R naught, right now is at 2.5 in the model. If you bring that down to 2.4 to 2.3, we are under flu deaths numbers. So when this model, how it's designed, small little changes in the input have a massive effect on the bell curve. That's really, really important. So just kind of recapping, right? Assumed R naughts at 2.5, you bring it down to 2.4, 2.3, you are under flu statistics. Another variable is the mortality rate. You bring that down to 1%, things look far better. And the third variable, and it's shown, is the weather plays a big role. We've already talked about this in regarding UV light and humidity. Humidity makes it harder for the virus to hang out, to travel. The light obviously has antiviral effects. So these are all really good things that are in our court. Now, I do think we're at about the highest right now, really close. We're right in that range. Let's go take a look at what that looks like here. So here are our stats for today. And if you look at the U.S., it's really interesting. I found this article in the New York Times that really broke it down by region, because there's certain regions that are getting hit really, really hard. I want to make sense of that. So when you look at like this, right, 83,000 cases New York, New Jersey, California, Florida. Let's look at the deaths per 100,000. So we're at 426. Let me sort this here. We're at... let me go back one. What did I do? I think I wrote that New York into cities here. There it goes. Okay. So let's look at per 100,000. 427 New York, 250 per 100,000. And then it drops to 24.5. Then you see 137. But you can see no one's really in this range, 427 and 250. No one's, Louisiana is probably the next closest. Mass a little bit, but no one's really in that range. So what's really happening right now in the U.S. is very concentrated. You can see in a couple of areas in the Northeast and then a little bit down south. So we're going to have to see. But the one variable that was factored in there was R naught, right? We also had the mortality rate. And the third big thing was the social distancing. And the fourth thing I would say was the temperature. So these are all major variables, and each variable, when they move a tiny bit, it plays a huge role in that death rate moving. So let's look at the U.S. real quick. 5109 death rate here today, 215,000 cases. Let's look at the statistics and make sense of that. So here's the hysteria math, right? 215,000 cases, 5,100 deaths, mortality rate 2.38. It's definitely going up. Now again, don't worry about this going up, because there's about 10 times more cases going around, maybe even 20 times than we know. One big variable that people are talking about that I see is, why is California not really getting hit? 213 total deaths, okay? Just to give you guys a little bit of perspective, okay? There's 700 people that die in California a day. Every day, 700. 2 are from coronavirus. Okay, that is not significant. That's not even on the radar in regards to being a significant issue in California. Why isn't California getting hit hard? Well, maybe weather. They're not doing a ton of social distancing. There's a lot of pockets. There's a lot of pockets where there's a lot of homeless population. Why isn't that being picked up and spreading like wildfire? Just San Francisco, there's 20,000 homeless. Why isn't this picking up? Now, my hypothesis is the virus has been around for a couple months longer than we know. I think there's a lot of passive immunity already out there. And passive immunity is good because if you already have the antibodies, so we have the mortality rate goes up, right? There's a bell curve for the mortality rate. That's the deaths. There's also a bell curve where the asymptomatic rate goes up exponentially. And this is part of the reason why the curve drops death-wise on the backside. The reason why is because as you have more people with antibodies, right, 90% of the population is going to be asymptomatic who gets the infection. And then the other 10% that get it, 80% of those will be a mild or almost no issues in between there. So once you have these antibodies being passed around, it's going to make it hard for the infection to spread. Because once I have antibodies in my system and I'm no longer asymptomatic, I'm no longer spreading the virus, shedding it after 2 weeks or so, guess what? I can't spread people. So it's like a shield. So it creates this protective barrier. So as the mortality goes up, the reason why it's going to drop on the other side of the fence, right? The reason why it'll drop down on the other side of the bell curve, if I can show you it here. This is really important concept. The reason why it's dropping here is, one, the virus is working its way through, right? But number two is the asymptomatic part of the population is going up as well. And that makes the virus a lot harder to spread. So this is good. So I'm hoping that as we open up the economy in the next 2 to 4 weeks or so, maybe in that range, it seems like it's delayed from Easter to the end of April, that we'll have a larger percent of asymptomatic people that are out there that will create a protective shield from those antibodies or from the infections being passed around as they have more antibodies. Does that make sense? Hope it does. So let me show you this stat here. So here's the U.S. here today. Here's the bell. Let me go back to the stats. I didn't get a chance to go over those. So real quick, real math on this is 2.38 mortality, 10 times asymptomatic. That's about 0.24. That's right in around the flu. It's about double the flu range. The question is, will it spread to 36 million people like the flu does? That's the question. We can't forget, CDC says 24,000 on the low side, 62,000 on the high side in regards to flu deaths. And let's not forget, average is 36. 3 or 4 years ago, we had 60+ thousand of flu. And we have about 500,000 on average, the 600,000 hospitalizations. That's not seeing a doctor. That's spending a night in a hospital. And if you look at actual medical visits, seeing a doctor, we're at about 20 to 22 million. So just trying to give you guys a little perspective. The perspective should comfort you, all right? We don't even have this many hospitalizations right now. And again, the difference in why the coronavirus is overwhelming the system is because it's not being spread out relatively evenly across the country. It's being distributed in those top 5 or 6 areas, like I mentioned, right? It's about 60 to 70% in these top 5 areas. All right, if we look at total cases, we look at New York, New Jersey, California, Michigan. We have about, is it still? No, it's about half now. It's about half. Those top 5 areas make up about half of all cases. So keep that in the back of your head. And let me go look at worldwide stats. We're up a little bit worldwide. But again, if you have knowledge guided by experience, let's go back to the swine flu. What happened with the swine flu, right? They said swine flu mortality rate was 2 to 3%. What did it end up being? 0.055%, right under, I think, flu. What happened? They revised swine flu down 63 times. There's a history of doing this. So we have to understand we never really know the asymptomatics. It's going to take about a year or two afterwards probably to put together all the data to even go back and really figure out what that R naught is, which is the ability for it to spread from one person to one or one person to 1.5 people. I don't even know how they calculate a half person, but you guys get it. So in general, a lot of these stats are going to be more accurate retrospectively. In the moment, it's just like stabbing in the dark. So real stats here, we go from a 2.38 to 0.24. More reasonable, right? And then we go into the flu stats. You can see here, 230,000 confirmed a year, about 23,000 deaths so far. It's going up about 500 to 800 a week. so maybe almost 24,000 now, and the mortality rate is going to be around 0.1. So just kind of recap that a little bit, and you can see mortality rates going up. My big concern is that the false positives on the test are going to be inflating the mortalities. I'm seeing people who have flu and coronavirus, and people are getting labeled as coronavirus cause of death. I've seen articles where people are like, yeah, my dad had Alzheimer's. He didn't die of coronavirus, and then the cause of death was coronavirus. I'm seeing a lot of anecdotal stories of family members complaining of these things. So my concern is that, number one, because of the hysteria, people are more likely to have coronavirus but not die of it, but then get labeled as cause of death on their obituary there. And then the last thing is the fact that we have a false positive rate much higher than we are aware of on the test. We already talked about this. Nearly half or more of all asymptomatic infected individuals reported the active nucleic acid test screening to be false positive. So I'm not sure if this data is getting better. If someone has more this is a study of March 10th, so it's only 3 weeks old. But if people have the more recent studies that are coming out on the new Abbott test, I'll be curious to know if the false positive is better, because I'm concerned that a lot of the numbers that we're seeing are still very, very inflated. And if we look at kind of the stats here with the U.S., I thought we were at the top of the bell curve. We were right here with daily new cases. We had about 3 or 4 days flattening off, and then we had a big pop. Ooh, you guys can't see what I'm looking at here. So I thought we were at the top here with daily new cases. We were right here flattening out, big pop. So I'm hoping this is the level we're at. I'm going to compare us again to Italy so you guys can see. And again, with the deaths, we had a big pop. We were right here, here, and then the last 2 days, big pops. So we're going to have to just watch this. Either way, we're doing very, very well as a country. All right, let's go compare. So let's go U.S. Let's do total cases. Doesn't matter, because that's going to be a factor of 10 to 20. And whatever country is doing more testing will be the one that comes back with more cases. So that's irrelevant. Mortality is going to be more interesting. Again, my concern is on the false positives, but if everyone's using a test that's similar, then you at least will have a statistical significance across the board of each test being relative for each country if they're all using the same test. So you could see Italy, 218, and then U.S., you can see we are still way, 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 way down, right? There we are. So 15 versus 218. So we do the math on that, 218 divided by 15. So that's still about a 14.53 times difference. So we're doing 14.53 times better than Italy. So let's go compare Italy's stats to us again. I like that. So what I did here is I tried moving our timeline. Ooh, I did it for cases though. Shoot. I may have to go grab a new one for y'all and see if I can do a better one for you. I grabbed the wrong stat. Okay, well, either way, let's go look at... Well, either way, let's go look at Italy here. Let's go make sense of this. So here right here, we're at the top of the bell curve here for Italy at about March 24th, okay? March 24th. And if we go look at Italy, they're starting here around February 21st, 22nd, 23rd, seeing mortality, okay? Starting to see deaths. Let's go to the U.S. now. Now, Italy is a much older population. We're starting to see deaths around the 14th. They were starting to see them where? Let's go back one more time. Around the 22nd, 23rd. It's about a 10 to 14 day difference, okay, in between Italy and between the U.S., all right? So if you could see here where Italy's at again, they're at the top of the bell curve at about day 22, 23, 20. Right in this kind of window here is the top of the bell curve. And you can see they're trending down with cases. And then you can see the same thing with deaths. They're almost there on deaths. You can see they're pretty much the bell curve on deaths is about 24th to 26th. This is the general bell curve right at the top where we start to go down, right? So let's remind you, the virus is going to express itself in a bell curve. It's going to work to the population in a bell curve-like effect. Now, if you do the math on that, there's about a 7 to 10 day lag time between Italy and us. I'm guessing it's 7 to 10 because there's a 5 to 14 day expression of symptoms. And the healthier the population is, you may prolong how long it takes for the symptoms to show up. And there's a 2 to 3 week death progression. And so because Italy has one of the older populations, I'm kind of shaving an extra week off of their time when the death started. So if I go look at the daily deaths with the US and I size it up for Italy, so they're starting here daily deaths around February 29th. We're starting here around March 14th, right? So that's about a 14, 16 days. I'm shaving off a half a week to a week there. And so if we do the math on that, and Italy started to go through their peak here, daily deaths on the 28th, 26th, right? So they're about a 5 or 6 days behind that already. And then we're maybe another 5 or 6 days behind them based on that because we're the first, right? We're 5 or 6 ahead. So I think we're another 5 or 6 ahead of the first. So I'm going to think April 7th to 10th is when we're going to start to be where Italy is right now, coming down. And I think that's going to take away a lot of the fear because a lot of people are seeing this exponential growth. They're hearing that, and they're just like, when's it going to stop? It's the unknown of like, how does this work? Now, we see it every year with flu, okay? Here's the cycle with flu. Now, is flu killing more people, right? I mean, is coronavirus killing more people daily than flu? Yes, it is. Right now it is. This is the most deadly. So let's go back to flu from 2 years ago. So flu from 2 years ago was killing over 1,500 people for a 2 to 3 week period per week. Now, right now, we're about 1,000 per day. So we're exponentially higher. This is the highest right now. The question is, how fast can we come down from this? So I'm hoping that we are doing all the right things. And more importantly, we are flattening this curve, which is going to allow the hospital people to not be overwhelmed, and we're going to have enough ventilators. I mean, once you go to a ventilator, it's an 80-20, right? It's a 20% chance you'll stay alive through it, 80% chance you'll pass. I'm hoping with the azithromycin and the chloroquinolone protocols that are out there, it's going to help. The chloroquinolone, which is the malaria drug, it's going to decrease the folate enzyme, the methyl tetrahydrofolate enzyme, and that's going to have a major effect on RNA replication. And so by slowing down the RNA, the virus won't be able to replicate. There's also some theory that the chloroquinolone is actually going to help drive, I want to say, more zinc into the cells, into either the viral cells or into that area where the virus is attacking it. And zinc has more antimicrobial, antiviral properties. That's why this doctor over here has adjusted the protocol, and his protocol involves adding in the zinc as well. So you see the hydroxychloroquine, which is the 200, I think I pronounce it hydroxychloroquine, 200 milligrams twice a day, 5 days. Z-Pack right here, 500 milligrams a day for 5 days, and then the zinc sulfate. So the zinc sulfate is really important. I saw an update. He's had over 800 patients right now, I think up to 1,000 patients in his community in New York, not one death. So I think this is going to be, from a mainstream perspective, I think it's going to be a winner chicken dinner. So that will hopefully drive the curve down. And then, with my functional medicine peeps out there, people that actually want to boost your immune system, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, those are all excellent options on the nutrient side. We can throw zinc in there. We can throw glutathione in there and NAC in that same category. On my herbal side, we got medicinal mushrooms, we have elderberry, we have andrographis, astragalus, echinacea, whole root. These are all excellent things. Start with nutrients first. They're more essential to the body. Start with medicinal mushrooms, and then some of my favorite herbs like astragalus second. I hope that helps. So just giving you guys a little bit of comparison. I'm making my assessment right now. I was looking at it based more off of China. I don't think we can believe their numbers. I do know there's a couple of data where they have pulled down their hospitals, and large bit of their Starbucks and Apple stores are all back to work. So they're definitely improving. Did they only have 3,300 deaths? I don't know. But you can see this is the general progression that they work through here. You look at the deaths, right? Just like that. I'm going to base it off a worst case scenario. That way I can give you guys hopefully a little bit more worst case data. All right. So Italy deaths right here. They're at their peak, March 26th, okay? Let's go United States. One more time. We're April 1st, okay? We're given, Italy started seeing deaths about 10 to 14 days ahead of time, so we're going to give them about a 10-day head start. They already have a 6-day head start from their peak, which was March 26-ish, so we're hoping another 6 to 7 days at the latest we'll be at our peak. Fingers crossed. Just giving you my feedback on it. And my general predictions, I always said half of flu from the get-go. I said also it probably wouldn't go past what swine flu did, which was 13 to 18,000. I still think it'll stay within swine flu range. It just depends on how high this bell curve stays. If this bell curve stays at the very top where 1,000 people are passing a day, we'll get there pretty fast. But I still think this will be, I think worst case, like my worst case scenario is this is a bad flu season. 2018, 2017, we had 64, 69,000 people die. I think worst case, this is a bad flu. All right. Best case, we're at, half to under swine flu. Fingers crossed. All right, let me go hit some questions, guys. What's up? What is happening? Thanks a lot, James. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Andre. Appreciate it as well. Dr. J, there's something weird going on. My uncle was diagnosed with corona without being tested. Exactly. That's another big thing. So remember, cases are going to be artificially high. People are being diagnosed without the testing. My big concern is the false positives on the mortality is going to jack up the mortality, jack up the deaths. Now, if everyone's doing the same test, it should still be equal playing field, but I am afraid the death rate could be artificially high. He has a dry cough and mild fever, but could that not be something else? The numbers have to be off. Yeah, I mean, it could be something else. The most common symptom of coronavirus so far is a lack of smell. So smell, that's going to be the key one. I just watched the video of people caught on camera trying to spread the virus by coughing and on produce at stores and sneezing on a rag and wiping it on rails and buttons in public area. Yeah, that people should be literally thrown in jail for that. I mean, there's just, even if it's just flu, right? Even if it's run-of-the-mill flu, people should be thrown in jail. There's just no tolerance for that crap. Andre writes in, weather is a big factor. Yeah, this is the biggest factor, guys. As soon as it starts getting warm. So remember, there was like 4 big factors in the model the government's using, right? R naught's a big one. You go from 2.5, which is where they're at now. That's on the extreme end. You go from 2.5 to 2.3. The numbers go to under flu when you go from 2.5 to 2.3. It's like literally hundreds of thousands of deaths fall off the bell curve when you go down just 0.1. So this is huge because the range for R naught, they gave it to 2 to 2.5. What if it's at 2? Well, now you're, very small amount there, like well under flu. Let me keep on rolling here. So weather's a big factor. Vitamin D is a big factor. 100% agree. UV light's a big factor. Humidity is a big factor. I agree. So let's bring on that sun. I'm thinking this thing is gone. Like we'll be dealing with the piddly end of this thing here. Like we'll be dealing with maybe this part right here in early May. Maybe here. It depends on how much this kind of strings out. Do we do like a South Korea where it kind of pops back up a little bit? And again, look at their deaths. I mean, these are 7, 8, 10. This isn't a lot to deal with, but look up their cases above. I mean, this is going in the right track, right? But will we have, see the cases dropping here, but will we have a little bit of a resurgence like this? Well, maybe. Like it'll probably be something like this. It'll probably be like right in this area, I'm hoping in end of April, early May, right here. Okay. Great questions, guys. Okay, so the big 4 factors, right? Weather, R naught. I already said R naught, 2.5 to 2.3, we're under flu. Mortality rate. Okay, mortality rate's always going to be way lower because of the fact we don't know the asymptomatics. And then the 4th one was social distancing, quarantine. Those are the big ones. Only about 15, 20 deaths nationally. Really feel for those who stuck in indoor northern hemisphere. I totally agree. I got my red light, infrared light over here. I got my sunlight and sauna. I got my pool and some vitamin D. Given azithromycin for pneumonia, finish those. Still nasty wet cough, no fever, doing ginger, nebulized glutathione, nasal rinse, CDA. They gave Keftin, probably cephalexin to try. Your suggestions. So yeah, keep doing all the sinus rinsing. Keep doing that. So why are they giving you the cephalexin? Are they doing that because of the pneumonia? Is the AZT not working? Or is it because of some other kind of infection? But you're doing all the right stuff. Keep it rolling. I'm assuming that your diet's really good, sleep's good, hydration's good. Also, they give us the Tessalon Perlis to try for a cough, Worried all the plus inhalers just make the immune system weak. Oh yeah, so if you're doing like a steroid inhaler, yeah, it could. The glutathione nebulized is going to be your best bet. Yep, keep doing the NAC. That's going to help with the mucus, and keep doing the sinus flushing with the minerals. And you can add the X-Lear packets for the xylitol to flush out any bacteria. You can also add a couple of drops of silver and iodine in there to help with any bacteria or viruses in the nose. Is my immune system still at high risk for COVID-19? I had mono diagnosis 6 weeks ago. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely could be. So make sure you're doing all the right things. Reishi mushroom is really great at deactivating Epstein-Barr. So is monolaurin. Those are really good things to throw in. You could even throw in cat's claw too. Those are all really good things to do outside of having a great diet and a great lifestyle and great hydration. Yeah, glad to hear I'm not believing China. I'm not believing it, but at the same time, I don't... I'm also looking at Italy. So the question is how bad, they're a communist country. Like, people come in that are sick, they're just going to throw them in a concentration camp, right? So could their communistic taking away everyone's freedom, could that maybe have decreased the deaths? Maybe. I mean, if you just took every death person and you just round them up and put them in a camp, I mean, that'd be absolutely terrible. It would take away our people's freedoms. Don't recommend it. But would that help the curve? Maybe. So they're either lying or their totalitarian government tactics may have worked in some odd, weird twist. Okay, cool. Nebulized glutathione, what you pointed out, is out of stock. Would any reduced glutathione work for nebulizing? I don't know. It'd have to have a bicarbonate in there. But worst case, just take it. Worst case, take it. China's data might be true. Jay, look at Taiwan, a Chinese state, extremely low mortality, incredibly aggressive control protocols. I agree. I've seen that. I looked at Taiwan. I've also looked at South Korea. That's why I'm like, it could be. We'll see. But so my predictions moving out, I was comparing us more to China. Now I'm like, screw that. I'm going to compare us more to Italy because it's kind of a worst case scenario. I keep hearing that wearing a mask outside is necessary. I thought you were okay going for a walk. You are okay. I mean, how a mask is only going to help you is like, if I cough on my hands and touch my face, that's how I'm going to get the virus, right? So touch my face. If I have a mask on, well, now it touches the mask, right? So the biggest reason why it's going to help, outside of someone, projectile coughing on you, the major mechanism is hand to face. So if you have a mask, you're less likely to touch your face, the skin, because obviously the mask is covering it. Biggest question of the day, Jay. Do you think Tom Brady, what do you think of Tom Brady leaving New England? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, I think there's some inside stuff going on there. I can't believe it's about money. His wife's worth twice as much as he is. I mean, they're like $1 billion couple. It can't be about money. It's got to be about some inside politics. It's got to be about control. It's got to be about a lot of things that I think Tom and Bill Belichick have too much, let's just say, humility and just respect for each other to air their dirty laundry. So we'll find out probably in an autobiography a few more years from now. But I think he'll be like, I hate to see it, like Joe Montana going to Kansas City. He'll ride out in the sunset 2 more years, be done. What do you think? What do you suggest for heart palpitations? Already taking a good electrolyte powder with 1,000 milligrams, 120 milligrams of magnesium. Still feeling? Could it be nerves? Anything? Yeah. So it could be blood sugar. Make sure you're eating. Make sure you have protein and fat at every meal. Make sure you're not skipping meals. Make sure you're drinking good water. And are you stressed? Are you really stressed because of all the corona stuff? Are you having cabin fever? Are there any other stressors? If there aren't and you're handling it pretty well, then you're doing all the right things. That's really good. Could be nerves, could be cortisol. May want to throw in like an adaptogen like ashwagandha or holy basil. Roshan writes, any specifics that you can share with WRT, what to look for NAC for nebulizing dosage? I don't know what WRT is, but you do not want to nebulize NAC from what I'm aware of, only glutathione with the bicarbonate. Emma said, what do you suggest, but take NAC orally. What do you suggest for a nasty cold and laryngitis? So ginger tea, 2 to 3 pieces of ginger, enough to juice 3 or 4 ounces of ginger juice pure, a whole lime squeeze, put a little bit of the rind in there, let it sit. I'll put it in a French press. I'll do a tablespoon of honey, and I will put about 12 to 14 ounces of hot water, leave it in the French press 5 or 10 minutes, press it out, put it in my mug for the day, my Yeti mug that keeps it like bloody warm all day. It's amazing. and I'll do that anytime I have a little bit of the laryngitis. There's also some good drops that are out there. It's like Whittle spoons. It's a ginger and manuka honey drop. It's really, really good. And you can also do zinc lozenge, 5 or 10 milligrams of a zinc picolinate, zinc aspartate. All those are okay. But do that. And if you Google Dr. Justin ginger tea recipe, you'll find my video of me making it. Also, what are you doing? Another Q&A when we can ask personal health questions. I'll do one probably tomorrow. I'll be back. What's the difference between nebulizing NAC or glutathione? So glutathione is a tripeptide, right? To make glutathione, it's cysteine, glutamine, glycine. NAC is just a really important building block to make glutathione. So if you're doing NAC, take it orally. You could take glutathione orally, better liposomal, or you can nebulize it like I mentioned and get it right into your lungs and really help with those redox pathways that help give off electrons and stabilize stress and inflammation and those inflammasomes from the cytokines in our lungs. Yeah, Joseph, it is your responsibility to stay healthy, and no one's talking about boosting their immune system. We're just talking about bloody social distancing and quarantining and washing your hands, which is great, but there's so much more that can be done. Doctor gives the Z-Pak for pneumonia, but since he's still coughing, they gave another antibiotic called Keftin. I see. So make sure you're doing the sinus rinse because it could be a post-nasal drip that's causing the coughing still. And then do the ginger tea. The ginger tea has a natural antitussin effect, so it'll kind of decrease the spasms in the throat. And then if you're still having some cough, do some shots of apple cider vinegar, dilute it with a couple ounces of warm water, and that will strip any mucus hanging out in the throat along with the NAC. Yep, ginger is awesome. I love it. Speaking of ginger, how do you suggest we wash things like ginger, fruit, and vegetables now? You can just do like a grapefruit seed extract wash. Just rinse it. Just a grapefruit seed extract wash, and then just rinse it for 20 seconds, and it'll just flush right off if there's anything. I'm not worried about it. You should be safe. The protocols now, like in Whole Foods, people are wearing gloves and stuff to undo these things, and there's a lot more stringent protocols. I order a lot of food through Instacart, and they have pretty strict protocols in regards to gloves and everything else. What time do you think you'll do a Q&A? Typically Fridays, it'll be in the morning. So what's today? Wednesday, right? So I'll try to sneak in. I just either do it during the day between patients, or I'll do it after I put my kids down to bed. What are your thoughts on nebulizing high-quality silver? I like it. Just make sure the parts per million are small. Ideally, make sure it's a nano silver, and then make sure it's 10 to 15 part per million or less. Make sure it's a reputable brand. What causes the dry cough with COVID? It probably has to do with just the inflammation in the lungs, and probably has to do with the mucous membranes as well. So typically, it's going to be the inflammation that happens in the lungs. It's going to make it harder. It's going to create more mucus, and it's going to make it harder to exchange oxygen, deoxygenated blood with oxygenated blood. So because of that, there's this chronic cough because it's really hard to make that oxygen exchange, right? And so at some point, that's where a ventilator comes in. Other people even talked about using a hemolung, which is really interesting. A hemolung, they put it right into the artery, right into your heart, and it oxygenates the blood right in the heart. I think they do it a lot for like lung transplant surgeries. I think heart surgeries too, but that could be a really cool thing. You don't have to be sedated. Hemolung, Google it. If you have MTHFR, are you at a greater risk? Well, if you don't have as much an ability to methylate, that could also affect glutathione, and that could also have major effects on your redox pathways, and that may make it harder for you to deal with inflammation, modulate your immune system. It's possible. So just make sure you're eating lots of good green vegetables and high-quality animal products that are going to have quality folate, quality B12, and make sure you're not consuming any crappy orange juice fortified with folic acid or bread fortified. It's going to be the processed crappy junk foods that'll have the folic acid. That would be the problem. Can you buy a nebulizer for nebulized glutathione? The one you recommend is not available in Canada. So yeah, just look at justnebulize.me or justnebulizers.me, or just grab one on Amazon that looks good. I like the portable ones because they're just quiet. Do allergies compound the problem? Probably. especially if you're on a lot of histamines, that could have an immune suppressant effect, especially if you're on like a Singulair, which is like a corticosteroid, which could suppress the immune system. So yeah, possibly. Get to the root cause of why you have allergies. Clean out your diet if it's not. My doctor told me to take echinacea, selenium, vitamin C, and green tea to boost my immune system. Those are all good. I would personally be leaning on vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin A as my nutrients. Throw in extra NAC. Throw in some maybe astragalus and echinacea, but that's a pretty good stack. I probably wouldn't do as much green tea, though, personally. Dr. J, you're fantastic. Thanks so much for all that you do. I send info to my family from you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Excellent. All right, guys, any other questions, feel free to let me know. Want to just give you guys the intel. So real quick, R naught 2.5. We go from 2.5 to 2.3. We go well under flu. So just these minor projections. Remember, we were at 2 to 3 million deaths. What brought it down from 2 to 3 million to 100,000 was just a little bit of social distancing added into the projections. Just remember, these models, they are so sensitive, the tiniest little thing can throw it off. So just remember, these small little things make a big difference. And then the X factor is the weather. And if you look at theweatherchannel.com, 2020 is projected to be in a very hot year. More UV light, more temperature, more humidity, and that only helps deactivate the virus, which is great. What can a smoker do for COVID-19? Don't smoke. Cut their smoking out. Lots of water, lots of hydration. Start, being a little bit active if you can walk around your house or walk around the block if you aren't in a quarantine state. Those would be some good things to do. Just get water in there and get some good vegetables and a nice low sugar diet and get the inflammation down. Any buffered liposomal vitamin C with bioflavonoids that you recommend? Yeah, liposomal vitamin C is excellent. You can do, is there a brand I recommend? There's one by Livon. Livon is really good. It's lipospheric C, but they're like back order for like a month. You won't even be able to get them. Joseph, you're welcome. Really appreciate it. If you have coronavirus and are recovering from home, what is the most important vital to look for to see a hospital? Blood pressure, oxygen. I would be looking at oxygen levels. If they started dropping below 90 or at least 88, I'd be a little bit more concerned. Go look at Dave Korsunski. He's got a podcast called Heads Up Health, a website called Heads Up Health. He did a webinar recently on the top 5 vital signs to look for monitoring COVID-19. So take a look. Dave Korsunski, Heads Up Health, and it's the coronavirus vital signs. Okay, excellent. Anything else, y'all? I ordered some nebulizer glutathione 2 months ago because of your video. So glad I have it. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you have it too. I got mine in the corner as well. Hopefully I don't have to do it. I'm just going to be relying on NAC in the meantime. Joanna, you're welcome. Thanks for the updates. Here mixed messages. Can you help clarify? Told to wash produce with soap. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go to that extreme, it just depends, right? I'm getting my produce from stores where people are going through the extra mile. My wife has some Lysol wipes that she'll wipe some things down in, and we just use a lot of water. And then we have a grapefruit seed essential oil spray that we'll spray on there that will help as well. Folks over 65, no comorbidities, known formats, 15 years, suggest you your vitamins outside of A and D to keep safe. So no comorbidities. So I would be just doing a really good multivitamin, multi-pack with just a whole bunch of really good minerals like magnesium and zinc and selenium and a good B complex. Those would be another really good thing to throw in with the vitamin A and a vitamin D. And if you want to throw in like a medicinal mushroom like reishi, that's probably my favorite mushroom to add in. Is quercetin better to take prior to symptoms from medication, or should it be taken once sick? Take it now. Quercetin will help upregulate glutathione, and quercetin also has an effect on modulating inflammasomes. These are the inflammatory byproducts that happen when the bacteria, when these toll-like receptors are activated from typically lipopolysaccharides. So lipopolysaccharides are going to be formed from the infection. It's going to stimulate all these toll-like receptors, basically these inflammatory byproducts. And a lot of these bioflavonoids, like your fruits and your vegetables, and quercetin will actually modulate that. It just kind of calms it down. And those inflammasomes decrease nitric oxide, which means when you have less nitric oxide, your blood vessels can't open up. So if you can decrease those inflammasomes, you can open up your blood vessels better, you can oxygenate your blood better, all those good things that are important for respiration. I have Silver Wings Colloidal Silver, extra strength, 500 ppm. Can I dilute for nebulizing? Ooh, 500 is really, really a big one. I would probably get 10 or less, 10 to 15 or less. I wouldn't. Now you could probably dilute it. I would just be really careful with it. Yeah, that's a high one. Just having you talk about this gives me a sense of peace. I'm sure others feel the same way with all the negative and scary stuff in the news. Thank you for doing this. Yeah, you're totally welcome. I mean, just look at the data, take out all the stories and the one-offs. Let's face it, 150 people die, 150 kids die a year of the flu. You're not going to see an expose on every single kid that passes away from flu. Okay, it's really sad that happens. But you're seeing a lot of these things with the whole corona thing. So just keep that in mind. When people do that, they're trying to shut off your brain and get you to feel more. And it's good to be empathetic, but we got to think. We got to use our left brain, which is all analytic, versus the right brain, which is, feeling and all that stuff. Okay. Guys, I'll be back tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's chat. You guys have a phenomenal night, and we'll be back. Take care. If you get the corona, put it down below. I want to know what you're doing, and we'll catch up on solution steps. Take care, y'all. Bye.